This week in Internet Censorship, Climate Skeptics Tony Heller censored by YouTube. Episode 6, December 3rd, 2020. Tony Heller, who's a YouTuber and noted skeptic of climate change and global warming, has been further censored by YouTube. He has received a second strike, some sort of fact check. He is moving to YouTube, about which a little bit more in a moment, and you can find his videos and his version of the events there at his new YouTube channel. He is expecting the YouTube channel, which has about 100,000 followers, to be canceled at some point in the near future. What he's doing is posting short videos pointing people to YouTube, but not going into many of the details, the facts that are supposedly being fact-checked. If you want to follow Tony, he has a new account at NewTube, https://newtube.app/user/Tony Heller, all one word. And this is the account, and it has his videos. And he's trying to shift his users over from YouTube to NewTube, which is a relatively new so-called alt-tech video platform that says it doesn't censor people. So again, Tony Heller has run into further censorship. I commented on this a few weeks ago. He'd had problems before that. Rather than going into all the details of the purported fact check, you can see his point of view in, for example, this fact checkers video, which goes into what went on, as well as some of his other videos. He primarily posts information about global warming and climate change. He's been doing that for many years, but he's a Trump supporter, and he also has been putting out stuff about COVID, the coronavirus crisis, and about potential or alleged election fraud in the 2020 presidential election. So you'll find content of that type there as well. Again, this is part of the ever-expanding censorship by certainly the mainstream social media companies, by Google, which owns YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and many others. Undoubtedly not a surprise to most people watching this video. It's important to diversify away from these platforms to find other platforms and ways of getting information that are not controlled by these companies. I mean, these are predominantly companies funded almost exclusively by advertisers. So Google is almost all of its revenue is advertising. YouTube may be a money-losing operation, but it nonetheless attempts to make its money from advertising rather than subscription revenues. Twitter, seemingly the same, etc. So despite the political trappings of the censorship activities, it's worth remembering the most likely reason for the censorship is that in some way the people who are being censored, or at least a significant subset of them, are acting against the perceived self-interest of the advertisers that fund and support and make Google and YouTube and these other companies possible. Don't be distracted by the politics. Think about what does the advertisers get out of perhaps promoting a climate change theory. It seems like there must be something there that's in someone who has a lot of money's interest. Follow the money. Look at the question of how are the advertisers profiting from these things? What are they doing? What are they trying to sell you? Is it in your interest to buy the products and services that they're selling? Because these are money-making businesses. These are not nonprofit foundations or do-gooder organizations. They are motivated by money. Google is trying to sell you something, and they are probably trying to sell you something being sold by their advertisers. So keep that in mind despite the political trappings of the censorship. We've seen it expand from targeting unpopular groups like actual Nazis and far-right and sometimes far-left supposed extremists into increasingly into mainstream politics, into pharmaceutical products, vaccines, products and services that are being sold to the mass population. And criticism of those products, whether explicit, as in the case of vaccine safety advocates like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and others, or sort of implicit. What is it exactly that questioning the climate change, whose interests are somehow adversely affected by someone criticizing the sort of official line from NASA and other government agencies about climate change? So follow the money and diversify your sources of information away from these centralized, gigantic, advertising-funded companies and entities. Our previous videos and articles on the contradictory numbers on the CDC website have repeatedly been censored by a range of social media services, such as LinkedIn here. This was a few weeks ago. This is the actual post that was censored. We've run into this with a number of different platforms. It's rather concerning, especially considering that these posts are pointing out contradictory data on the official CDC websites and documents. Apparently, it is a real threat to the society, democracy, human lives to point out obvious, gross discrepancies on government websites. You can bypass this censorship with our Censored Search website and service, which you can reach at censored-search.net or censored-search.com or censored-search.org. We may add additional names later, but those are the names right now. It's Censored-Search. Find the answers to your problems censored by advertisers and other powerful interests. It is free. We have a free version, which ranks the search results according to popularity. That is how many other websites link to the page, the search result. You can also pay and get more control and transparency into the algorithms. You can get access to more advanced artificial intelligence algorithms that look through the censored content and try to identify pages that are censored because they contain factual, true information and separate those out from other ones which are not so useful. A popularity contest cannot always do that correctly, and popularity contests can be manipulated in various ways. Thus, check out censoredsearch.com, censored-search.net, censored-search.org. This concludes this video presentation. If you like this video, please click like. Please click subscribe and the notification bell if you would like to receive more content from us. You can avoid internet censorship by subscribing directly to our RSS news feed. Please consider sharing the link by email and on your website or blog, in addition to liking, upvoting, or sharing on increasingly censored, advertising beholden, big company social media. We have encountered such censorship. Mathematical software is developing algorithms and software to automate data analysis, reducing the risks of costly errors and increasing the predictive power of the results. You can support our work financially by subscribing on our Patreon page, https://www.patreon.com/mathsoft, or scanning the QR code in the lower right corner.